Hello and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Wednesday, January 30th, 2019, and this is episode 88. My name is Carol and my Ravelry name is Knitsnpurls. The show notes for this and every episode can be found on the blog and also in the episode thread in the Ravelry group. If you'd like to get in touch, I would love to hear from you. You can send me a private message on Ravelry, leave a comment on YouTube, or leave a comment in the group, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining me today on this somewhat overcast afternoon here in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada, about an hour's drive east of Vancouver. We have had several beautiful sunny days here and it's not raining, so I really can't complain about a few clouds, especially when I compare our weather to what you people back east are going through. You are in the midst of true winter. So I hope you're managing to stay warm, and I hope the cold and snow gives you a good excuse to stay inside and get some crafting done. Thank you for reaching out to me last week. I heard from so many of you about the clip that I put in of the eagles, and I'm glad that you enjoyed seeing them as much as I enjoy seeing them. It's something I never get tired of, and I'm grateful to live in a place of great beauty. I live in a valley. We are surrounded by mountains, and we have quite a range of birds, and I kind of live right on the edge of the suburbs, I guess, if you would call it that, because I back onto farmland, and so I get a good variety of sort of city birds and country birds. Actually, this morning I was really excited to see the downy woodpecker on the suet. That's only the second time I've seen it this winter. And there's also a flock of bush tits, which are these teeny little birds that come and they just basically pile onto the suet. They're there for about a minute maybe, and then they're gone again. But they're so cute, and they have a cute little beep beep kind of sound to them. So good bird watching this morning. So I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to record it today. Something came up, and I am starting quite a bit later than usual. And I thought about putting it off till next week, but then decided I didn't want to do that. So it may not actually appear on YouTube until tomorrow, but I thought I would at the very least get the recording done and as much of the editing and processing as I could today, because I didn't really want to leave it another week. So I have several knitting projects to share with you, including one finished project. I have a few acquisitions, talk a little bit about what's up and coming, and a little bit about what happened this past week. So let's get on with it, shall we? First things first, I will talk about the New to You craft along that is running in the A Stitch in Time podcast Ravelry group from January 1st to February 28th of this year. It's all about trying something new, whether it be something new within a craft that you're familiar with or a brand new craft to altogether. So there's no finished projects thread, it is just a chatter thread, and when the knit along closes at the end of February, I will draw a couple of names and award you some prizes. I have been working on getting those prizes together. One of them I'm hoping works out. I bought some really cool fabric yesterday, and if things work up the way I'm hoping they will, I will have that to show you next week. If not, I might have to do something else. But I am working on getting those prizes together and hope to show you next week what they will be. Basically the only rule is that you can use either new projects or works in progress, but if you're going to talk about a work in progress, I want the new to you part to take place sometime between January 1st and the end of February. So in other words, if you have started a pair of socks back in November or December, but are putting in a new to you heel this year, by all means show it off, talk about it. We'd love to see. There are some really nice projects we're seen in that thread. Just today or yesterday maybe, Woolen Flute put in a picture of her double knitting, which looks beautiful. I have never tried that, or haven't tried it yet. That or brioche. So I feel like that's going to have to happen one of these days. But for now I am contenting myself. That doesn't sound right. I'm content to stick to sticking, which is my new to me technique that I am doing this year. So next thing is what I'm wearing is my cheerful cardigan, and it is by Anna. Oh, I wrote it and I can't really see it, and I thought I brought my glasses in, but I didn't. Anna Cohen. It is knit from Imperial Yarns Tracy in the Quail colorway, which is color 46. I began this in May of 2017 and finished it in November. Not because it took that long to actually knit, but because I lost interest and put it down and picked it up a few times. So it's a cardigan that's open in the front, has this really nice lace panel that runs along here and around the back. Hopefully you can see that. And then the skirt, or I guess that's what you call it, the skirt of the cardigan is in this textured stitch. I think it was sand stitch it was called. I made a couple of different, a couple of minor changes in that I knit the skirt of the sweater. That doesn't sound right, but I can't think of the right word. Knit that a little bit longer for my long torso, and I also made the sleeves long and added, oh, there's a siren. Something's gonna go by here in a second. Fire engine. Hopefully nothing too bad is going on. They're often first responders to ambulance calls too. Anyway, I put a little bit of sand stitch along the bottom of the sleeve. I think it was supposed to have a rolled edge like this, but I preferred this. So that's that. It's actually, this is a cardigan I've worn quite a bit. I'm really happy with how it turned out and how it fits and everything. I'm going to take a sip of tea. I've been feeling a little breathless. I think it's because I have this sense that I really want to get this done, and I'm kind of rushing it a little bit. It's already mid-afternoon, so. Okay, I promised you a finished project. They are my City Girl socks. So, let me do this. I can see them better. So, these are knit from Turtle Purl yarns. In there, let me look at my notes, I'm sorry. Striped turtle toes in the City Girl colorway. And I don't know about what you'll see on camera. I am not getting the best representation of the color from what I can see. But you can see in any case that it's a series of different purples with these little gold stripes in between. And sorry, I probably just jiggled the camera. I did an afterthought heel, or what I would call a forethought afterthought heel, in that I put in the waist yarn when I decided the cuff was long enough, and then I just did a little bit more, and then I put the heel in, and I used just yarn from the other end of the ball. So that's how it ended up working out. I am reluctant to do a true afterthought heel for a couple of reasons. One, I find it awkward to work the heel once the toe is done. I can't get my hands in there as well to manipulate everything. And the second reason is I'm not good at gauging the correct length to knit from here to begin the toe, and the time, I think 1 or 2 times that I've actually done a true afterthought, I've ended up having to redo the toes because my socks are usually too long. I overestimate how much I need. So anyway, another pair of plain stockinette socks for the record, and I never get tired of doing those, I have to say. It's always good to have something kind of mindless to work on. And the stripes help motivate you just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. Okay, I'm just going to put these down here and try not to jiggle the camera. I did not succeed, I saw that. Okay, I've only worked on a couple of other projects this week. The first is my Cedarburg shawl by Tabitha Hedrick. I realized the pattern's sitting here, I didn't take it out. I'm getting close, which feels good. So there's the black and white picture of it. There's a okay sort of picture of it in color. So the yarn I'm using, the main color and the first contrast are both Sweet Georgia yarns. Tough Love sock. This was originally a Sweet Georgia yarns mystery knit along. The shawl is by Tabitha Hedrick. I did not do it as a mystery knit along. I started it for the first time, I think, a couple of months after that knit along finished, and then I didn't like it and I ripped it all out and started over. I think I started over in September. So anyway, the main color is Gold Mine. The contrasting color one is Smitten, and then the other contrast color is Impulse of Delight, Dark Amethyst. Summit Sock is the yarn. And it's very similar to the Tough Love sock. There's the color right there. Beautiful purple. I have not done tons and tons since I showed it to you last week, but I am on the last lace section. So I'm pretty excited about that. Sorry, my yarn's all twisted here. I'm going to try and bring this up in such a way I can give you a good look. It's getting so there are a lot of stitches on the needles, so it's a little bit harder to manage. So there, I've done 3 bands of lace, and I'm on my 4th and final one with, and it's quite a bit wider than this one. And I think this is upside down, but this will give you a sense of what it looks like. It's an asymmetrical triangle. Start out little, gradually get bigger, bigger, bigger. So yeah, I'm glad to be sort of in the home stretch on this one. I think I have about 40 rows to do though, so it's not as though it'll be done, you know, lickety split or anything, but it's, I just slipped a couple stitches off. It is enjoyable to work on. The lace is a nice change after all the garter stitch, so pretty happy with that. I'll give you a pretty good look. The other project I've been working on this week is my Throughstone cardigan by Bristol Ivy. There's a pretty good picture of it. I'm happy to say I've completed the sleeves. Yay! Most boring knitting ever. Beige stockinette tubes, I have to say. I'm so happy to be finished with this step. I'm not sure, you know, I love to knit socks and I knit tubes all the time quite happily, but I think it's because this is just, it's just a plain color. There's not much to differentiate one row or 1 inch from the other, and you know, other than the increases, there aren't many milestones. So anyway, finished the sleeves. I've put them onto waste yarn, ready to go when it's time to do the yoke. The yarn I'm using is Cloudborn Fibers Highland Sport. The main color here is Shayla Heather. There's a darker brown called Stone Heather. The lighter is Taupe Heather, and then the tealy green is Ocean. So I finished the sleeves, which meant that I was able to start the body. So, oh, I gotta be careful, I'm losing a couple stitches here. So it was just last night, or yesterday, I guess, that I finished the sleeves. So I've only done a few rows on the body. I had done the ribbing before, but I've done like that much on the body. There's my steek stitches there. And I have marked out where the pockets are. Oh, I'm losing stitches again. Pardon me, I just really don't want to lose these. Although the yarn's kind of sticky, so they don't go running down. And anyway, there's where the steek stitches will, or the pockets are going to go. And I've actually marked them on the other side at the ribbing with some locking stitch markers, because the bottom of the pocket linings are going to get sewn along here. And so that gives me a good indication of where they go. I've also, this pattern does not include any waist shaping, but I really like to add that to my sweaters, and so I've put stitch markers in a third of the way from each side on the back, and I'll work my increases and decreases there. And normally on the front I would do them 25% of the way in from each side, but that would place them smack dab in the middle of the pocket, and that's not going to work. And so what I've decided to do is on the side, I'm just going to work them at the side seams. Or sorry, for the front, I'm just going to work them at the side seams. And I think that hope that should work okay. It'll give some shape to the sweater. I'm not doing dramatic shaping, but I did want a little bit of a curve. So yeah, got that going, so that feels good to move on. Again, kind of boring knitting, a lot of beige for a long time. The increases, the waist shaping will help keep it my interest, and also the inclusion of pockets. So if you were watching last week, you know that I knit the colorwork pocket linings and attempted steeking for the first time, and it went pretty well, except on one of them I had clipped some of the crochet stitches along the steek by accident, and I was concerned about it not being reinforced enough in that area, and so I decided to redo them. And so I did do them over. These are my new ones, and I put stitch markers on those too, so that I wouldn't confuse them with the old ones. And I am really so much happier with the look of this. Look how nice and neat that crochet edge is. I used a smaller crochet hook. I think that helped for sure. And yeah, just look how nice. Just so tidy. So and I was really careful. As I was putting the crochet stitches in, I had little stitch markers along to mark each, to mark off each section, which, like where it changed colors, I had stitch markers on either side so that I was marking the stitches that needed to go together, because you take one stitch from, sorry, you take half the leg, or no, you take one leg from one stitch and one leg from the stitch that's next to it, and you crochet those two together. So it gets a little bit confusing sometimes if you have a stitch that's tighter or looser. Sometimes they're not sitting right evenly next to each other. They might be like this, and you might mistake it for the one that's up here. So you have to kind of make sure they're matched all the way along. Anyway, super, super happy now with how these turned out. So I'm a little nervous, but also kind of excited now about the next step of actually putting the pockets in. You knit to a certain measurement, and then you do some ribbing, and then you bind off the ribbing, and that leaves a big hole in your knitting. And so what you do on the next row is you knit across all your body stitches, and then you add in, pick up and knit all the pocket stitches, and then you stitch the pocket here, here, and here. So I'm a little nervous about it because I feel like it could look bad if it doesn't get done properly. On the other hand, you know, I'm going to take my time and try and make it as tidy as possible. Now, I had a little bit, I hesitate to mention it because it's probably more confusing than it has to be, but I just have a little, not a question, I guess I'm questioning the pattern a little bit. It states the gauge on the pattern in both solid stockinette, solid color stockinette, and colorwork stockinette. It gives the same gauge for both. And back here in my memory, I thought I had learned that colorwork stitches are more square than regular knitted stitches. So your regular knitted stitch is wider than it is long, which is why you generally will have, it generally takes more rows per inch to get the same. That's why it usually takes more rows per inch than stitches per inch to reach the same measurement. So for instance, a typical worsted weight gauge would be 5 stitches to the inch across and 6 rows to in length. And so I can't figure out how you're supposed to get the same gauge in colorwork. Colorwork, just by its very nature, your stitches are more square, and so you more or less have the same amount of stitches across as rows vertically, which is kind of how this measures out. And so I don't know, I just question why the gauge has been written that way when I think that would be a very difficult thing to achieve. They do sort of give you a measurement of where you're supposed to start doing the ribbing, and I feel like this almost looks like there's not enough, okay, I'm not saying this very well. I looked at this photograph and I counted the rows from here to the top of the pocket, and they're basically the same amount of rows as the pocket linings are. But that doesn't make sense because there should be more rows in plain stockinette, plain colored stockinette, to get the same height. And if you look here, you can see it almost looks like the pocket's pulling down, and I feel like that's probably because the row gauges are different. In any case, what I intend to do is kind of use this as a guide, and when I get to the point where I'm about 1/2 inch short of this, I'll start to do my ribbing so that the pockets will sit nice and flat behind, and that the pockets themselves won't pull down like this. I feel like they should be sitting higher and flatter. I don't know if that's right. I hope I'm not confusing anyone who might be knitting the same pattern, but that's kind of where my thought process is going with that. Pardon me. I really liked the buttons. I actually thought when I ordered this, I thought perhaps we got the buttons with it. If you can see, I like them. They've got a little bit of that turquoisey teal green on them. But we didn't get buttons with the kit, and so I was looking for buttons yesterday. I couldn't find any. There were a couple teal ones, but the colors were just not quite right. And so I ended up settling for these beige ones, which I thought because they weren't plain beige, they kind of had some variation to them. I thought that would pick up the lighter and darker beiges that are in the color work. So Not super exciting, but I think they will do. They're certainly the right color family, the right tone. So that feels like a lot of talking about that one project, but it has taken a lot of my brain space the last couple days in particular, as I've been looking ahead to where the start of the body and trying to figure out where to put my waist shaping, how many rows between each decrease and then each increase, and figuring out the pockets and all that. So it's good to have that challenge. Now that I've sort of got it figured out, I think the next little bit will be more interesting. But it is still a whole lot of beige stockinette, so it's not that exciting. Okay, let's talk about something more exciting, which is acquisitions, because it's always fun to get new yarn, right? So this week I received my first shipment of the Ocean Wind Knits Group of 7 club shipment, and this month's colorway is based on this painting. And it is called Mirror Lake by Franklin Carmichael from 1929. And that is a place in the Muskoka Lakes in Ontario's cottage country. And so I decided to go with sock blanks. I've ordered the club for 3 months. And so here's my sock blank. Ooh, the colors are coming up really pretty on the screen. Good. So how fun is that going to be to knit? Now I've had a couple people ask me about sock blanks and how do you knit from them. And it's really easy. One end, you'll have 2 ends to it. This is just basically a long rectangle of knitted fabric. And you'll see there's ends on both ends, but you'll find that one unravels more easily than the other. See, that one's basically knotted in, and I can't really knit from that end, but this end unravels really easily. And so this is the end that you knit from. So you basically cast on and you just start knitting off of here. Now I did have a sock blank I got last Christmas time, and because of the way it was dyed, I ended up snipping it in the middle, picking out that row, and then winding them onto 2 balls and knitting from sort of the middle out and the middle out. In this case, I'm just going to start at the beginning and just knit, 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 and see what they look like. They will not look alike at all, and that's kind of the fun. It can be a little bit tricky, or not tricky, just, your yarn is coming off like this. It's going to be kind of crinkled. That's kinky, I guess that's a better word. But as you knit, you kind of are pulling that tension out, and once they are blocked, they actually look quite smooth. You wouldn't guess that they were knit from, kinky yarn. So I am really excited to knit this, and I'll tell you in a minute. Well, I guess I can tell you now. One of my up and coming things is I am going to knit the Jangles socks by Lori Law of Ocean Wind Knits. I figured it made sense to knit one of her patterns out of her yarn, and so that is going to be what these become. So I'm going to be casting those on this week, and I didn't print off the pattern or anything to bring to you, but I think they're basically a ribbed sock, and they have the same heel as the Downtown Mystery socks that I knit for my husband for Christmas. So I'm anxious to try them out for myself. That heel fits his foot really nicely, and so I wanted to give it a try for me. So anyway, that's that. Oh, and it came with this cute little maple leaf stitch marker too. And I went over to one of our local yarn shops, Black Cat Custom Yarn, to look for some things to use as prizes for the New to You craft along. And of course, it's hard to resist buying yarn. This colorway caught my eye right away. It's just a beautiful, beautiful periwinkle blue. The camera's blowing it out a little bit, I feel, but it has really nice shades. That might be a pretty good look at it there. Nice shades of kind of blue and purple. And they had it on all these different bases, but I liked it best on the everyday sock. And it's called Dratini, which I got told is a Pokemon character. So this will either be shawl or socks. I got it in this color, in this yarn, so that it could be either. But I just love this color, and I couldn't resist. And I was doing fine until I spotted these two sitting on the shelf together. And I swear they did it on purpose, because look how great they look together. And this would make a beautiful two-colored shawl. And it is their luxury sock. So this is Deception, and this is Epic Purple. Just about glows in the dark. It's that vibrant. Anyway, I just thought those belonged together, and they belonged at my house. So yeah, I did a little damage there, but that's okay. It's beautiful stuff. So just again, don't want this to fall. Try not to wiggle the camera. Stay. So the other thing I have up and coming is one of the women that I curl with saw me knitting socks at Curl Egg one night, and she asked me if I would knit her a pair of socks out of this hand spun that she had bought. And it's a wool, 50% wool and 50% silk. And it is this beautiful bright pinky, pink and purple blend. Barber pole. I think that's what you call barber pole, right? When it's kind of like this. Whoops. So she brought it last week, and so I am going to later on cast on some socks out of this. Now, I was trying to figure out, I feel like it's sort of a sport DK to worsted. That's what I would call it, a DK to worsted. So they shouldn't take too long to knit up. And she has a fairly long foot, so I'm thinking about knitting them from the toe up so that I can make the yarn go as far as possible, because I would hate to get near the toe and run out. So that's my plan. I'm going to just do a pair of plain toe up socks, probably with a short row heel. So yeah, that should be fun. I have not worked with much hand spun in my life. I think maybe even only once, and so I'm kind of looking forward to it. Look how pretty. There's some different colors. You can see some kind of orangey there, and then there's like darker bits through here. So yeah, that should be really fun to knit. Or yeah, fun to knit. So okay, moving on. My tea is getting cold. Agatha Christie, I've been reading 1-2 Buckle My Shoe. I actually finished it last night before bed. Once again, I had no idea who the murderer was. I really liked this book. It was Hercule Poirot. I never know how to say it. My French accent is not great. Have you noticed? Hercule Poirot. And so he plays quite a prominent role in this book. Unlike the last one where he was kind of a side character, he's definitely, you follow more of his movements than in some books. And yeah, just caught me by surprise. And another time, I think I actually have this in my show notes, which is bigger printing. Yes, it had also been published as An Overdose of Death and The Patriotic Murders. So time to move on to the next book, which I don't even know what it is. It's downstairs on my bookshelf, and I'll tell you next week. Kind of gotten back, well, in the last, sometime in this past year, I really got back to reading a little bit before bed most nights, and it's a nice way to end. I usually can't make nice way to end the day. I usually can't make it more than a chapter or two, but it's sort of eases me into sleep, which is good. I'm going to put this on hold and go warm up my tea, and then I'll be back to tell you what's been going on this week. There, that's better. You can see my deers reappeared. Feels nice and warm now. So, first things first, we won at curling last Thursday night. Yay! We've kind of been struggling as a team, and I have personally been struggling with my game this year. So, I'm happy to say that not only did I have a better game, but our team as a whole did better and pulled off a win. So we were quite excited. That was our first win this season. So that was great. And then Friday morning, we headed up to see my mom for the weekend. It was her birthday yesterday, and we usually try to go up sometime around her birthday. So my sister Anna Marie and her husband Doug also went. So we had some cupboards that we are storing in our garage to take up to the cabin. This year we're redoing the kitchen cabinets in our cabin, and my mom had bought some used ones when she was down here in November. And gradually, in bits and pieces, they've been making their way up to the cabin as people have either gone up to get my mom or taken her home again. And so this was the last of them. So we had been storing the last few pieces in our garage. So Anna Marie and Doug came about 10 o'clock, and we loaded up the last of the cabinets in their vehicle and ours, and took off and stopped for lunch and got up there about mid-afternoon. And so we headed right out to the cabins after that and unloaded them. So not much snow. There's not very, very little snow in Clinton itself. That's where my mom lives. And the cabins are about 10 miles or 17K from where she lives. And it's a little bit higher elevation. So there was some snow out there, but only 3 or 4 inches, which is the least, I think, practically the least we've seen since they moved up there in 2003. Prior to that, we never went up in the winter because it's too cold to stay in the cabins. But since my mom and dad moved up there, we almost always managed to make it up once a winter for a visit. So anyway, yeah, it was not much snow at all. I took my camera out, but it wasn't even that picturesque, except I did take a little footage, a couple pictures and a little bit of footage of the creek running where there's a bit of snow and frozen ice. What other kind of ice is there? A little bit of ice. The creek was not. It's terrible. The creek was not frozen over. There was a little opening, so I'm going to put just a very little clip in here of the creek running. Not very much to see there, but it just looked really pretty and sounded even better. Anyway, we didn't stay out there very long. We didn't have much purpose to be out there other than unloading the cabinets. So we headed back to Mom's, And then the Legion has a Friday night dinner as a fundraiser, and my mom had already told us she was taking us out for dinner Friday night. So we headed over to the Legion and sat with some friends there, and had very good, it was chicken parmesan was the dinner, and it was very good. So yeah, we just visited with friends for a while after dinner, and then headed back to Mom's place and played a couple games of cards. Everyone went to bed, well, not super early, but I think we were all in bed by midnight. And then the next day, we just had a really lazy Saturday, played some more cards, read, sat around, visited. And then we had told my mom that we were all taking her out for her birthday, because that was yesterday. And so we went out for dinner again, and did that. And again, some friends came by sort of for happy hour beforehand and brought some sparkling wine to toast my mom for her birthday. So we had a nice little visit with them, and then they joined us for dinner too. Then we came back, played more cards. So not exciting weekend, but just very nice to be together, very relaxing, easy drive both ways because the weather was so decent. It was really nice and sunny when we woke up Sunday morning, and lost a little bit of the sun halfway, I guess, but came out again as we headed closer to home, and yeah, it was beautiful. Beautiful with the sun on the mountains, on the snow, and really good. So anyway, yeah, nice weekend. Nothing exciting, but just a nice since weekend. Then things have been fairly quiet around here. Nothing out of the ordinary. Laundry on Monday, that's typical. And then yesterday I did a little bit of shopping, both yarn, as you saw, and fabric shopping. I was hoping to get some, there's a big sale at the fabric store, and I was trying to match up some fabric for a couple of quilts I want to do, but nothing really leaped out at me. But I did pick up some, as I said before, some fabric, interesting fabric I'm anxious to start playing with and see if my idea works out. So I won't show it to you now, just in case it doesn't. And then yesterday afternoon, I got a text from my sister Allison, that's the sister I curl with, and she asked if I'd be able to curl with her team this morning because the person they had lined up as a spare couldn't make it after all. So I said, sure. So we had another win. That was great. It was the first win for their team this year too. And we also felt really good because in particular, two curlers on their team are very good. One guy was sparing for them, but he is an excellent curler and wins a lot of bonspiels and stuff, his team. So it felt good to not just win, but to win against those two people. Plus my brother-in-law, Doug, he curls on that team. So it was kind of fun curling against him. This is, he learned to curl last year, but this is his first real year of steady curling. So he's definitely getting the hang of it. And it was kind of neat to see how he was doing, and just kind of fun to play against him. And really fun to win. So I got to curl again tomorrow night, our regular Thursday night thing, and plus we're on bar duty tomorrow night. So it's going to be kind of a long evening, but that's okay. We only have to do it, I think, a couple of times a season. So other than that, not much going on. It's our granddaughter's birthday on Friday. She's going to be 14. How is that possible? We met her when she had just turned 4. So 10 years, that's hard to believe. But she's doing stuff with friends, so it's not like we'll go to any sort of party, but I think I will take her card over in the afternoon and have a little visit with her and the other kids before she goes out with her friends. So other than that, yeah, nothing really big coming up, except I am curling with Allison's team again next Wednesday because someone else isn't going to be there. So it was fun today, definitely, and just yeah, it's feeling good because my definitely feeling more comfortable out there. I've just had a terrible year so far, so it's nice to feel things starting to gel a little bit. Before I get to this week's Something Good, when I was talking about the Eagles earlier, I meant to tell you about something that had happened on our way up to my mom's this weekend. So to get there, we have to go through 2 different canyons. And in most places, the slopes are quite steep. And so the trees that are growing along the slopes, sometimes the tops of them are basically on the same level as the road. So as we were driving along, we saw an eagle flying, and we could see it looked like it was coming in to land in a tree. And it did, and the tree was literally like next to the road, but the treetop was there. So we got a really good look of it coming in with its talons like this to land on the tree. It was, I wish I'd known it was going to happen and could have caught it on film, but it's one of those things you just have to just preserve up here. So that brings me to something good. And my something good this week is spending time with family. Now, I am part of a large family, and we truly do enjoy being together. And I know that's not the case for every family. In fact, in my husband's family, there's one sibling that wants nothing to do with the rest of us. So there's some discord there. But I feel really lucky, and on my side of the family, even though we all have our own quirks and such, we just don't let our differences get in the way, and everyone's really respectful of each other, and our husbands all get along. So I feel lucky to have that. I've always said that my sisters are my best friends, and they truly are. So that's something good for this week. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye for another week. I'm curling next Wednesday morning, so maybe I'll record on Tuesday, except I'm busy that morning too. Maybe Thursday, maybe it'll be Friday. I'm not sure right now. I'm hoping to check in with you next week though. And if not, obviously, it'll be the week after, but I'll do my best to get another episode out next week. And so take care till then. If you're trying something new, come and join our New to You craft along. Join in the chatter. It's not about finishing things. It's just about trying new things. And I'd love to see what you're up to. And I don't talk about the Ravelry group very often, but if you search a Stitch in Time podcast under the groups tab on Ravelry, will pop up. Come say hello, introduce yourself, show us what you're making, join in the chit chat. Love to hear from you. So on that note, see you next week. Bye.